I wanted to ask about this question of brand safety and brand suitability, your philosophy, the tools that are available, and where the industry is in terms of achieving brand safety and your needs for suitability.
Mm-hmm. Before the pandemic, it was already a very important subject, but not an important subject only for the digital strategy. It is a subject at a company level, both in terms of quality, but also in terms of relevancy of what we are doing with our brands. So basically, we have some products which are addressing kids, formula milk, for instance, where parents are very cautious about who is talking to them, how is it being said, and where is the content being available. So brand safety and the context in which our brands are speaking is probably the first topic of conversation for marketers in Danone. Just because one little mistake will cost a lot of credibility to our brands. And those are brands who most of the time are not allowed to go on TV in many countries in the world because you are not allowed to advertise on TV on some products for babies. So it's even more important that the context in which we are talking online and on mobile is extremely controlled, extremely respectful of the parents who are online and looking at these contents to know if they have or not to buy the product for their kids. So we are taking the worst case scenario always as the decision-making filter for us. So that was before the pandemic. The pandemic didn't really change that because you cannot do that manually. There is no way to go for only trust in this type of matters. The reason for that is because the risk zero doesn't exist. The content and the proliferation and the inflation of the content online is so huge that basically going manually or trusting a white list from agency will not be enough. So we had to equip worldwide with a systemic approach to brand safety, along with viewability, along with obviously a control on the way we are crediting the efficiency of our campaigns with the degree of safety we have approached. And again, I'm insisting the risk zero doesn't exist. So we are always very humble in the way we are addressing this problem when this problem occurs, because we are doing very much our best, but the content proliferation is so intense, fast, and sometimes new social media are not as controlled as they should be. It requests a constant adaptation.
So what do you think, speaking for Danone, but perhaps for your colleagues in the industry, what do you think the impact of this pandemic will be on the way that we do business?
I don't have a crystal ball, so honestly, that would be extremely bizarre for me to give you a very clear answer. What is sure is that what we've seen in my field of business is the fact that people were buying online in a more diverse way. They were not looking at one-stop shop to buy everything online because they had more time to discover content, discover a place of discussion, discover forums, discover also a new form of influence. So influence marketing in digital has been widely and disrupted during this pandemic. And because they have more time, they are completely eager to buy where they feel online. First, it's the safest. The content is the most relevant, but also the quality of the delivery and the service and the hygiene around the service is there. So our direct to consumers for many of our products have risen in an unprecedented way thanks to that. And we had a website where we could deliver a high level of services, but people from the start in the food industry were not really eager to buy food online. This has completely widely changed. So in a way, this pandemic has made us leapfrog by 2 or 3 years in the usage of consumer to buy online. And that's probably for me a shift which we could foresee the beginning of it, the seeds of it, but not the momentum we have right now, and the fact that we believe it will be a little bit more sticky, because once you have a good experience of a delivery of food and fresh food or a formula milk or water online and it's delivered to your doorstep in the best service possible, you're probably going to get used to that. That's the biggest shift for us if I look at the digital landscape. Obviously, the pandemic is also having an effect on the ways of living, because people will not have the same basket possibilities. We know we're going through a crisis, unprecedented crisis, so it has an impact on the affordability and the accessibility of the products that we need to think very seriously, so that we address as many consumers as possible, in view and in the know of the new capabilities of people to actually spend money on food. So that's also something you think about when you develop online services.
Also, finally, we've been speaking to brand marketers about their thoughts about news, being in the news environment. Views are going up. It's a lot of engagement, but it's an area of caution for some brands. And what is your approach to in media investment around news?
We have always been very cagey to media investment around news, especially live news, especially the all live environment. And this is the reason, because we are not relevant when we are in the hot content, and we are not relevant when we interrupt people and consumers in the middle of a news watching. It's not efficient, the memorization is low, and it's even more now not in our guideline at all, because there is no real control about what is going to be said and who is going to be interviewed. So it's easy through the new inventory online not to be present in front of live news or news. You can buy inventory away from this type of content, and this is in our guideline. We are not looking at live news, especially, or I would say political news, as a contextual place where we are actually buying space. We are not present there. However, there is another type of news which is going through more advocacy or influence, which could be called also a certain level of journalism. You have media platforms like Brut, for instance, worldwide, which are providing some hot content, investigation content. And in that case, we agreed on certain thematic where we can be in, thematic about food access, for instance, or political crisis in some of the countries where access to water is a problem. Our brands could be relevant in that context, so we are green lighting, but we are never doing it if the level of control is not high into what type of content is provided. You have new media platforms which are very able to give you the type of thematics they are approaching and the way they are investigating. If we believe this is very objective and not political and not polemical, there is no reason why not to put advertising in this type of context. But new media are very strongly recommended to work with advertisers like us, to have a clarity on the thematics they are approaching, and not to be too much in the hot, immediate live content, because it's unsafe for our brands. What is to have in mind is we are not in the type of advertising where we are lacking resources or inventory to speak. We have more inventory where we could launch our content than we need, actually. So we are not in the situation where taking risk or trying to play the card of having a maximum of reach or a maximum of audience at certain moments makes sense. And we are not looking at controversy at all. We are a company whose quality and health approach is very, very clear. And because of that, we have no interest to take risk. What was a very important point for us, what was the most important point for us, is always to be able to find the right partners, so that we have no need to do manually or to do things locally. We can work fast at scale. So the problem is not to make the decision that our brands are going to be safe or not. The problem is to make sure that you have partners around you which are automatizing the scrolling of the web and the scrolling of the mobile content, so that we feel 85%, 90% sure that we are not at risk at all. For the remaining 10%, we are doing what we call audit every 3 months on all the content, depending on the countries, to look at why some of the inventory are still at risk. So we are allowing ourselves a 10% risk management, because then we can investigate, but the rest doesn't need to be investigated because it's crawled through very, very trusty partners.